Do Orthodox recognize the same saints as Catholics? Is there someone who canonizes saints in Orthodoxy like the Pope? So all of the saints before the departure of the Pope from the Church in 1014, when the new Frankish-minded Pope turned his back on Roman Orthodoxy, turned his back on the Eighth Ecumenical Council, and adopted the Filioque in total disobedience to the Church, in total flagrant opposition to the Eighth Ecumenical Council. From that point on, basically, in that time period between that and 1054, when the Pope anathematized the Patriarch of Constantinople and sealed his departure from the Church, then the Orthodox Church ceases to recognize saints that had followed those who were considered saints by the Pope, and they had followed the Pope into schism, and there was a departure from the communion of the Church. Unfortunately, grave sadness for all of that. So basically, the first millennium, all the saints were recognized in the West, were recognized by the Church in the East because they were Orthodox in the West. There was a Roman papacy, meaning Romiosini, meaning the Roman Empire, right? It's such a tragedy and an irony that they are called Roman Catholics because it's exactly not Roman Catholicity that they've had since their departure from Orthodoxy and from the communion of the Church, but a Frankish Latin heterodoxy that they adopted. The Franks were against the Seventh Ecumenical Council. The Franks were for the Filioque. The Franks were never a part of that Roman Orthodoxy, which Rome had maintained up until 1014, when they added the Filioque. You had a struggle going on for the last 150 years in the Roman See between the Franks and the heterodoxy of the Franks and the Romans, who wanted to remain faithful to the ecumenical councils and to the Church in the East. And eventually they lost. They lost Rome to the Franks. So from that point on, we don't recognize those who they call saints, including Francis of Assisi, by the way, who some people think is a saint. It's not recognized as a saint. In fact, we have many problems with the things we read about in his life that are problematic from our perspective. We don't have a pope who canonizes saints. No, absolutely not. Even though local churches that recognize the saints do that only after much time and the body of the church embracing the saint. And I'll give you an example. The great and wonderful and renowned ascetic of Mount Athos, Paisios of the Holy Mountain, who reposed in 1994 and was glorified a few years ago and is recognized as a saint throughout the Orthodox Church. He was immediately, even during his life, but immediately after his repose, recognized as a saint by many, many people in the Orthodox Church. Very quickly, they wrote the life of this great ascetic. And quickly we saw icons being made and services being written. And all this happened for 20, 25 years now. And only after this had become universal and that his writings have been translated into many languages, right? Then the hierarchy in charge of the Holy Mountain, they said, okay, he's enrolled in the choir of the saints, and we have a date that we will celebrate his memory. And no longer do we need to wait for this. We confirm it. So they're confirming that which the church has already embraced, and God has revealed through many miracles. The church believes and still waits for miracles to have been tested to in the lives of the saints. Very much needs that. We do not have the papacy above. We do not have beatification. We do not have this process of the devil's advocate. We do not believe that any hierarch is going to tell us who is holy. The whole church will sing out the holiness, and the martyrs or the confessors, right? There will be clear things that the church will say from its experience of 2,000 years. This is a holy example. And there are many, many saints we don't know about. There are many who are never glorified. There are many ascetics on Mount Athos who are holy men that are never going to be glorified like St. Paisios was and entered into the choir of the saints. So there's a small percentage that end up being official saints, quote unquote, right? And there are many holy people that we just recognize as holy, but we don't have services written to them, and we don't have icons made of them. But they're in heaven, they're glorified, and their teachings and their life was exemplary. So that's how it is in Orthodoxy.